All right, so this is going to be a unboxing slash comparison between the new shiny mass-produced 1817 from All Aboard Games and the original 1817 printed by Deep Thought Games, All Aboard Games, and in some cases Golden Spike Games. Some of the stuff has already been opened because this will be my second go through this. My phone crashed the first time. But in any case, so this is the original 1817. I believe it started getting sold in 2012. This one was made by Golden Spike Games, but All Aboard Games is the one that produces it primarily. Almost all copies of 1817 were probably made by All Aboard Games. Deep Thought Games had the original license, but John Tamplin doesn't really make games anymore, at least that I'm aware of, or not very many. So yeah, this is a bespoke, unique copy of this game. This is I guess the 109th copy that was made by Golden Spike Games. Yeah, what came? This was an original bespoke copy, meaning it was made by hand. In this case, by Jeff Ewer of Golden Spike Games, but Scott Peterson made most of the copies from All Aboard Games. And yeah, so this is the shiny new mass-produced 1817 made by All Aboard Games. So when All Aboard Games did their 18 Chesapeake Kickstarter, they decided to produce a couple other popular 18XX titles, 18MX and 1817. 18MX is more kind of entry level, and then this is kind of the granddaddy, just the consensus, one of the great 18XX games. So yeah, this copy right here, the original, I believe was being sold by All Aboard Games for $210 for the base copy, and then if you wanted the extra certificates for the 10 short variant, which you do, I think that's the only way to play. That was another maybe $20, and then if you wanted the colored tokens, I believe that was $25 or $35, and with shipping, I think all told, it would run you like $260 to get this bad boy. And that's a lot of money, but it's worth it. It's an epic game. I know folks in Seattle that have played it hundreds of times, and they still enjoy it. They still get something out of it every time they play. And it is a pretty amazing game. And there's a lot of stuff in here. Something like 600 pieces of paper and like 200 pieces of wood. A lot of work goes into making one of these, so it's totally valid price and just quality game. So let's do a quick unboxing of what's in the new version and compare it to the old version. So this is 1817. You'll notice it comes in a far beefier box. I have some stuff out of this box right now, but I could fit everything into this box, but it is pretty pretty filled to the brim there. So the extra space could be used for inserts or whatever. It is a bigger game. So out of the box you get this glossy rulebook. This is the original rulebook, so that's kind of the difference. So with this rulebook, the bespoke version, it's more of a matte, kind of just regular cardboard paper finish, whereas this is glossier, kind of what you find in a regular mass-produced game. I don't know that one is necessarily better than the other. This does feel more, I guess, professionally produced there, even though it doesn't have the a cover there, but it does have an index. So yeah, that's a difference there. And then you have the Bank Pool Market Shorts the loans and the revenue table there. So this is kind of not too glossy, kind of the same kind of quality cardstock that you'd find in GMT's games like 1846. Maybe a little thicker, but you know, still pretty much cardstock. And then this is the original. The art is exactly the same between the two for the most part. I mean, not for the most part. I think there isn't any art change at all. So this is the same components, except this is laminated. You know, it's glossy laminated. I'd say about the same type of thickness, but this is clearly more durable since it's laminated, so you can spill stuff on it and it won't be that much of a problem. So yeah, next would be the board, and I think this is a genuine improvement over the original board. So I always had a problem with the boards from All Aboard Games and Golden Spike Games. Basically, these kind of quad fold boards with kind of just like a sticker label put on it. My problem was that these immediately picked up like fingerprints and grease spots, and I remember I got my copy of 1822 and I literally just, you know, I unfolded it and, you know, just pushed my finger on it to kind of get it kind of flat, and immediately had a fingerprint on, you know, imprinted on the board. This copy of 1817, I actually got at a convention, and just immediately, this has only been played twice as far as I remember, 2 or 3 times, and like this happened immediately when I took it out of the box, right? You know, I have another kind of thing there, and it's just, I think this was just, it was so new that the ink, you know, like smudged, and you know, you can't smudge the ink on these. I know copies of games where this right here, just from moving the and I see this often on different boards, just moving the tokens back and forth starts to cause you know, this to get scratched or just smudged, and you see a lot of kind of smudges and just things. So these aren't terribly durable. I've never really been a fan of this production. I know that Deep Thought Games used to make laminated push boards, which were more durable, but also they would kind of like peel on the ends and stuff like that. And this is, you know, it looks more professional than just kind of like a foam board with like a laminated thing on top, but like durability wise, I've had problems. I actually ordered another board from Scott to replace my 1822 board, and then that board got like all smudged. So, you know, that's been a big issue for me. So what I do now actually is I do a Krylon matte spray. I spray all of my boards to kind of preserve them a little bit, which I did with this after the fact. And honestly, I can't tell you if that has helped or not, but it is a pain. So the new board, I can't tell you obviously yet how well it'll hold up, but it does have kind of like a more linen finish. It does look like the board was kind of, you know, it's obviously more, it's a factory produced board. It looks like it's you know, just a better production board there. So, you know, hopefully it works out better than the original board. So, you know, that's I think a solid win for 1817. We'll see as time goes on, but that seems like better. So stickers are pretty much the same. One thing I'll note is it looks like the tokens in the new one is just a wee bit bigger than the old one. So if you look at kind of there, you'll see that it, I guess you can't tell too well there, but it's just millimeters bigger than the old tokens. So yeah, those are the stickers. Then you have the punch boards. Pretty standard thickness punch boards. So just take one of these, and nothing special. It's pretty standard punch board. It's it doesn't have the thickness obviously of the GMT punch boards. I know people have strong opinions one way or the other between like these types of cardboard tiles compared to these all kind of fell apart, but these right here. So the obvious differences being these are laminated, so they are like shiny, and you can kind of like see it in the light there, whereas these are not quite as much. These are pretty matte, right? And then some people have mentioned issues with parallax, where because they're different, when you put this on here like that, right, from certain distances it doesn't quite match up. I don't know, that can get pretty picky, but some 18xx players can be picky. So those are, there's pros and cons to both. I don't really have a preference. I do like, if I had to choose, I would probably choose laminated tiles, just because I can fit all the tiles in a bag. With the thicker tiles, it becomes harder to, stack them. The GMT 1846 style super thick tiles are really kind of annoying to stack, because they just kind of like tip over really easily, whereas these you can stack them pretty easily. So I'd say I prefer laminated tiles in that sense, but it's not a huge difference for me one way or the other. So those are the punch boards, pretty standard there. And then you have the shares. I opened this up in the last video I tried to record, and you have, now these are not necessarily new. If you've bought games from All Aboard Games in the last, let's say, year or two, you've probably had these types of cards in 1822, Harzbahn. This is kind of the same quality card. It's you can see kind of a bit of a linen finish there, compared to laminated. These are laminated sheets here. So again, pros and cons to each. I like these because they have kind of rounded corners there, whereas these are pretty sharp on the corners, and I can imagine they might, though I've never seen it, they could potentially like split. These are thicker and more durable, because they are laminated. However, I had a game of Harzbahn where somebody spilled water on these types of cards, and they turned out okay. So durability, I guess, isn't a huge issue with these. Obviously these are going to be glossier because of the laminated, and these are slightly less but again, just like the tiles, it's personal preference, I guess. So that is the shares. And then we come to the so I did open this in the previous recording I tried to do. You come to the tokens, which are just a genuine improvement. So the base game came with these wood colored tokens, right? And where they're just the same color. They're essentially wood plugs, and these are kind of colored tokens. The one thing I would have liked to see, what I call the Seattle upgrade, is you'll notice that I have regular wood color tokens, and then I have one colored token that's flat, and then I have one colored token that's tall. The reason for that is when you're marking it on the kind of the market value board, the stock market. When it's a 2-share company, I use the regular wood tokens. When it's a 5-share company, I use the colored flat token, and then when it's a 10 share company, I use the tall token. And that's a good way to just be able to look at the stock market and tell immediately what's a 2 share, what's a 5 share, what's a 10 share. Doesn't come with the game. It's something that you have to, I had to ask for extra stickers, and I had to buy the tokens, the wood tokens myself. I wish that they had come out with something similar here. All of these are basically going to be the same shape, so I need to work out like a solution to differentiate the 2, 5, and 10 share. But it's just, it's fine. It's the tokens themselves are pretty nice wood tokens, and that's an upgrade definitely over the base old game. And you have your charters here. So these charters are, they've got a nice matte finish here. Otherwise, the thickness is pretty much the same as the other, pieces of paper. So this is the charters from the old first edition, and also laminated. The thickness is about the same. This is probably a little thicker. Obviously, durability wise, this is gonna beat this. Another major issue that I found with these are the corners are square, which means that they can get dinged in the box. That's been a problem with games that I've had with cardstock charters, whether just the regular play or even just having them in the box and moving the box around, you could get dinged corners. You can also get like bent games, so this can easily be bent, and just the durability of this is not nearly as good as the durability of this, where you're not going to get those kind of bent corners, and you're not going to be able to have bent things if you're shuffling stuff around. So yeah, durability wise, not as great as these. Would have been nice if these were more cardboard instead of cardstock, but they're reasonable. They're about the same as you're going to get in any other mass-produced 18xx game at this point. So those are the charters. So then last thing to talk about, I guess, is the price. So this game, I believe with shipping included, was $185, which is a substantial price benefit from this one right here, which was going for, I think, if you assume like-to-like comparison, you would have to assume that you're getting the colored token upgrade here, which would be, again, like another $25, $35. So this would be like $235, and then shipping probably figure, along those same lines of, $250. So you're saving a solid $60-$70 by, getting this compared to that. There's upgrades and downgrades. So, there's pros and cons. Some people definitely prefer the laminated version. I think the biggest disappointment is that this wasn't cheaper. So I totally understand the reason why this is so expensive. Somebody made this. Hours were put into making this. As someone that has made print and play games, I know how much effort it takes to make one of these. Somebody spent probably like a day, making, all told, making this and stickering all the things. I know Scott doesn't really sticker his old bespoke games, but Jeff did sticker these, or like one of his children did anyway. And it takes a lot of time to make one of these. So you're not just paying for the components, you're paying for the time. Obviously, you're paying for the design as well. But when you're making a bespoke game like this, I completely understand the price. This, however, was made in a factory in China, right? So somebody did make this, but like it was factory produced. So the fact that the price only went down to, maybe not even half as much, is I think a slight disappointment. Is it worth it? Yes, it's a fantastic game. It's worth it But it would have been nicer if, I think, the mass-produced games all around, because 18 Chesapeake was like $70, and I think 1849 is like $90, and those prices aren't a huge decrease from their bespoke versions. And obviously the production runs aren't as big. You can't produce 5,000-10,000 copies of this to get like your to make cheaper runs. So I understand that. Larger runs are going to mean they cost more money, but I don't know. Again, I don't know what the wholesale value of this is, so maybe I'm completely out of line, and the margins are still decent. I know that Scott is particularly risk averse. He doesn't want to have stuff sitting in his warehouse for years, and he wants to make sure that he's profitable, and completely understand that. And again, it is worth it. This is definitely worth it for the price. But it would have been nice if there was a more of a, for example, like GMT. I believe it was $46 upon release for their games, $48 I think for it's under $50 for their 18xx games, and Scott's aren't. And I imagine similar production runs, and Scott's pricing his a little higher, so that's a thing to consider, but still worth it. But yeah, that's the new shiny 1817 compared to the old bespoke 1817. Now you know the difference.